Alright, my name is Erik Vollstädt. I'm Bitnation's lead ambassador and community director, and I just arrived in Lisbon yesterday. It's my first time here, and I think it's a really nice city. I will just tell you quickly what Bitnation is all about, and then I'm more interested in the discussion, because I would like to also find out why you are here and what we can solve together to, let's say, create something on this platform. But first of all, I would like to show you, let's say, a general video about why Bitnation exists, let's say, what problem we're trying to solve.
Before nations, before borders, there was the Pangea supercontinent. Since then, the world has been divided by tectonic shifts, widening oceans, and stifling politics. Nation-states are crumbling under the weight of local and global challenges that they seem incapable of solving. Rather than embracing a borderless world and increasing personal freedoms, governments and multilateral organizations have overseen a surge in bureaucracy, protectionism, and ever greater intrusions into our personal lives. To prevent a drift towards tyranny, we need drastic change. Pangea is Bitnation's decentralized jurisdiction platform. Using Pangea, you can build voluntary nations, agree contracts, and resolve disputes with other citizens, and access the services you need. This is our vision of jurisdiction as a service, a global market for governance services. The Pangea Arbitration Token, or PAT, is an Ethereum-based in-app token that powers the Pangea platform. When you create a contract, complete a contract, or resolve a dispute on Pangea, you receive non-tradable reputation tokens through Lucy, our AI bot. Accumulating reputation tokens earns you tradable PAT tokens. This ensures that you can't buy a good reputation or acquire it through popularity, but if you earn one, you will be rewarded. Imagine a world where people can freely choose which voluntary nations and jurisdictions they want to be part of. A world where voluntary nations offer a choice of services under their own laws and policies and compete for citizens in a free market that rewards good governance. You too can be part of the future of governance by joining the Pangea token sale. Welcome to the Internet of Sovereignty. Welcome to Pangea.
So a little bit about my own background, why I was interested in working with Bitnation, or why I came here basically. So I come from an anarchist background, and I was looking for ways how to opt out from our current governance system and from let's say the structures we were born with. And so I was looking for ways how to solve it from within the system. So I don't know, through political parties, by trying to become a president, or all of these things. But eventually, I've seen that many people who had a similar vision actually became either stopped or corrupted on the way. So if you really try to change the very governance structure that we're born with, you essentially end up, as a compromising on your principles. So Cody Wilson basically said here, increasingly all political questions that we could fight about have been relegated to an administrative sphere. So I could spend my entire career becoming one member of some segment of the government, yelling as hard as I could for many years, making a career. Or I could write software that totally explodes the paradigm, right? So the very idea here is to create a new model that makes the existing one obsolete. So people no longer rely on the existing governance system simply by designing a better one that makes it easier for people to opt out. One of our ambassadors, Tetsuo Ishii, he's a digital nomad himself, and he said, the blockchain is not just for money, it's there for brand new governance structures, replacing the nation-state concept from the Napoleon era. Digital nomads like me know that national borders are imaginary. Our activities are global, but most governance systems are still for locals only. The government marriage system is one of the most obsolete systems today. Marriage is a very personal matter, but is being enforced by governments, and the laws are so different in each country. So more and more people are, let's say, waking up and trying to escape from this geographic monopoly that we live in and try to live an international lifestyle by becoming digital nomads and to essentially become stateless by never staying too long in each territory. But essentially this status quo that we live in, it's not adapting, let's say, to our more and more globalizing and international lifestyle. It's still for locals only, and it does not adapt to technological advancements. And these nation states that we know are basically a global geographical governance oligopoly. They have territorial monopolies and no competition in their local territories. And because of that, they start to have wars for power in their geographical area. It's a major source of injustice, corruption and taxes. Because they are the supreme power in these territories. And these current governance service providers, they have no reason to improve their services because there is no competition. So as we know from economics, when you have a monopoly situation, you can simply offer low quality services and your clients will have to take the service as it is, and you can even raise as much money as you want because there is no alternative. So another one of our ambassadors, Pedro Rivera, he said, I want to create tools that people can use to manage themselves as society. The conventional law-based system is very weak for the society we live in nowadays. People with enough money or intelligence can manipulate and use it against society, as we've seen many times. So Pedro Rivera, he's from Colombia, and there people already realized that politics is not so much about actual change or representing the will of the people, but it's more about a popularity contest, just who will be in charge. And it's really, it has nothing to do with structural changes in the government itself. So yeah, if you have enough influence, let's say, in these structures, you can just use it for your favors. And if you want to change something, you should create tools that people can use to govern themselves, for self-governance. And moreover, apart from this whole oligopoly situation with governance services, we also have a visa system in place where people who just happen to be born in let's say, bad places, they have bad passports. And that makes it impossible for them to live and work in countries where they would like to live, for example, here in Europe. And furthermore, 2 billion adults are currently unbanked. They have no access to our financial systems. They cannot simply start up their own company by getting a loan from a bank. No, because they have no bank account and there's no infrastructure for them to do so. So if you would take these 2 billion adults as one economy, the gray economy or System D, it's basically the second biggest economy in the world after the US. And it's a gigantic labor market that is currently untapped. And yeah, that is restricted because of, yeah, they just happen to be born in a bad place. And another one of our ambassadors, Christoph Heuermann, he's also a digital nomad, and he said, passports are by no means necessary. Unfortunately, the global apartheid condemns millions of people to stay in the impoverished home countries. My hopes rest in the Bitnation platform, which possibly provides everyone in the world with a unique ID on the blockchain, which could be recognized as official travel document by governments. So I know this sounds very far-fetched because we're just a startup and we're just, experimenting with this and that, but in the future we actually strive for recognition from nation-state governments, so Bitnation citizens can actually use this ID on the blockchain for travel and other things. So we will actually create a new global standard which is independent from, let's say, the arbitrary systems that are imposed by nation states. This should be something backed by a global consensus that is represented through blockchain. So passport could look like this. So you also have a name, you have an expiration date, a birth date, a picture, but you also have a public address and an expiration date. So this public address is basically your name on the blockchain. They do not show your biological name, it's merely a code. So if you can use this, you can actually show who you are on the blockchain. It can be used for recognition. And on the back side you would have the QR code that you could easily use to scan and to find the transaction block on the blockchain, and also the timestamp to verify the hash. Maybe you heard about this process before, timestamping. So this is actually something that you can already do nowadays. You can create hashes of documents, of movies, of any kind of file, and you can store this hash on top of a blockchain transaction. And if you repeat the same process with the same file, it should create the same hash. But if anything is faked, if there's a wrong name or a birth date or any wrong number, then it will create a different hash. So this is a process that you can use to actually verify the originality of any document, contract, birth certificate, marriage contract, anything. So this is something that can already be used nowadays. And yeah, this type of blockchain notarization can be used for so many things. It can be used for land titles, for marriage, for birth certificates, for simple contracts, or for wills. And these certificates can be accessed at any point in time. It's not like when you have to go to a notary or to some government ministry to verify a certificate or some title. This can be accessed at any point in time from anyone who has access to the internet. And there's no restrictions because the blockchain is open for everyone. And you can, like I said before, always prove your ownership of these titles. And another one of our ambassadors, Africanus Kofi Akosa, he said, most of the properties in my country, he's from Ghana, have no titles because of cumbersome processes and corruption. A decentralized land administration accessible to everyone is what is needed. And the blockchain offers that very cheap. Sooner than later, the state is going to become obsolete. So I know this sounds a bit extreme, but actually in Ghana, the government is very poorly administering the land titles in that country, and it's actually a source of conflicts between farmers and people who own land, because they have no legal backing for their ownership, for their land. So what they need is some sort of verifying that they are the owners to prevent others from taking over the land and then claiming it's theirs, because the way they manage it right now is very informal. And through blockchain they could actually formalize this process and have timestamp on the blockchain to prove that they are the actual owners of their land. And they could use that to monetize it, for example, to build buildings, to rent it out to other people, or to use it for mortgage loans, for anything. Right now it's completely excluded from any financial transactions because it's not legalized, let's say. And to further prove this market, so already 60% of all cell phone users worldwide are using mobile phones and have access to smartphone applications. Maybe they have a bad internet connection, but still somehow, like even in the poorest regions in Africa, there are somehow everywhere smartphones. And people do use applications like WeChat, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and so on. And the cost, the global cost for legal services is about $600 billion per year. So that's really a lot of money that is basically, yeah, not being wasted, but still, like, it's a huge cost that could be reduced, because yeah, people are spending so much money on courts, on trials, on lawyers, and all of this could be not all, but many things could be optimized and can be step by step put on the blockchain. So what we offer with Bitnation is to create binding peer-to-peer agreements through a chat interface. So we can pick up the people in third world countries, for example, where they are already. Like, they have informal conversations through WhatsApp and make their deals like that. And now, just by having an emoji that leads them to a smart contract template, they could put this on the blockchain. And they wouldn't need to understand the whole technology behind it. It would be just simply an update, let's say. And they can do so even through chatbots that understand natural language. So this is something that we really want in the future, that will be so intuitive, like WhatsApp or Facebook. And these agreements that they create, the most important part of all of this is the dispute resolution. And this is a service that every government should offer, that you have legal security, that if you have a contract, that the contract will be enforced and that you will have some sort of help when there's a dispute. And we will have a market for dispute resolution, and the arbitrators will compete for their clients. This is in a very stark contrast to the existing court system, where judges basically work until they retire, and they have no, let's say, counterparty where they need the customer feedback to continue working. I mean, they can deliver just, really bad services for their clients, and they will keep working. And here, arbitrators will need to get the reputation from their customers. And it's a very decentralized system. This arbitrator will be specialized in all kinds of laws that people are demanding. And the last function is that you can create a virtual nation. So you can simply create a nation that is completely independent from the nation states that we have nowadays. And we have a different perception of what a nation is. So instead of seeing physical borders or military and police or things like that as a definition for nation, we say definition of nation should be a group of people that has a common culture and a common purpose, and that has some behaviors that bring them together, let's say. But apart from that, it's nothing else. So even people who are on the opposite side of the world could be member of the same nation. It should not be dependent on where they have been born. And to just have like a look at the process for doing these agreements on Pangea. So you will first of all find your counterparty, someone that you want to do any agreement with. Like, it could be marriage, it could be a business deal, it could be, I don't know, like all kinds of deals. So you will find your counterparty based on their reputation. And once you found each other, you are in a chat, and you generate the smart contracts through the chat. And a chatbot, like I said, will assist you, and you will choose your code of law. It does not have to be the code of law that you have in your local country. The people don't even know of each other where they are. The way they do their agreements should be completely independent from where they just happen to be born. So they will choose their code of law, and they can even create their own law for their specific agreement. And then they will choose an arbitrator who has an expertise specifically for that law. And they can choose witnesses who will control the whole process and who will be also put in the timestamp later on. And then both parties will sign it physically on a piece of paper or whatever. So all of this will be on the contract, and this contract will be notarized through timestamping, like I explained before, like through a hash on the blockchain. And the most important parts of all of this is that you create an escrow. Because when you deal with someone on the other side of the world and you don't know who they are, and they are not bound to any local court system, you need to have some sort of guarantee, let's say, that they will actually do what you ask them to do in the contract. So, for example, when I ask someone to send me a microwave, like me as the one who will deliver it, I want to have some guarantee that I will get the money in the end, and not that he will just completely ignore me. So the buyer will have to put some cryptocurrency in the smart contract as an escrow, so it's locked. And it will be in a multi-sig wallet, which means that you need 2 or 3 keys to unlock this money, and the other party cannot just simply run away with the money without doing anything, without delivering a product or a service. And the third key will be in the hands, the 2 will be in the hands of the counterparties, and the third in the hands of the arbitrator. So if there's a dispute, the arbitrator will be able to use his key to either send back the money to the buyer, or to send the money actually to the provider, because maybe he actually delivered a service and the buyer was just making a false claim that it was never delivered. So yeah, so much about the contracts. And about the technology, so we're creating our own ID and reputation system, and also creating an AI bot, Lucy, which will be responsible for distributing this reputation. For now, for the beginning, we're using Ethereum for tokens, for notarizations, for smart contracts, and for the wallet and escrow. but we're building this up on the mesh network that couldn't be employed on other blockchains. So we want to integrate more and more blockchains to become blockchain agnostic. So just for the start, we're using Ethereum, but the very infrastructure that we built is not dependent on Ethereum. And finally, for storage, we're using IPFS and our Lisbon. And to just give you an idea, so we could use either rootstock to also access the Bitcoin blockchain. We could use some potential Ethereum killers like Lisk or EOS or Eternity, and even post-blockchain protocols like Hashgraph, Holochain, or Bitlattice, which are like Tangle and IOTA. So there are many new ideas, and we want to be, let's say, always receptive for the newest ideas on the market, so we're not dependent on Ethereum. And then how the, let's say, communities or how the parts of the app work, it's good to explain that through the reputation tokens. So first of all, you have the Pangea arbitration token, which is a financially tradable token, which is the token that we sold now in our ICO. The ICO is already over. And this token is sort of the master token for the reputation token. So here we have the reputation for individual citizens. For completing contracts, you can get positive reputation, and this is done through an AI bot, so it cannot be corrupted by humans. Because maybe you know Black Mirror, there was an episode about the reputation slavery. If we enable this kind of system, people would just run after people with the highest reputation. We don't want this to happen. We want to have meritocracy, where people are actually rewarded for their efforts, and the AI will actually measure how much work was performed in a contract to reward them with reputation. And for earning a good reputation, you will also earn pet tokens, which are financially tradable. So you have also financial incentive to behave good. Then you also have the reputation of the nations. So this is proof of collective, and this is not done through an AI, because an AI cannot measure if citizens are happy with their nation. There will be some sort of poll or survey that is done through chatbots, but people need to judge themselves how satisfied they are with their virtual nations, with the DBVNs, decentralized borderless voluntary nations. And when they gain more of these tokens, the founders of that nation will also get some financial bonus in form of pet tokens. And finally, also the laws will have reputation, so that writers of laws, there will be market of laws, and the citizens can use various templates for their contracts. And the creator of this, they will be rewarded for that. So they have a revenue stream, and they have an incentive to improve the smart contract templates. And yeah, so this is like a nomic evolution of laws, and this is actually how laws originally evolved. It did not come from governments, but it was evolved through merchants who were traveling and who made agreements between each other. And just over time, the governments were taking over these voluntary agreements as a fixed law that everyone has to comply with. But originally, laws came from this kind of market evolution. And yeah, so all conversations, or basically all contracts, begin with a conversation between people. And smartphone chat is increasingly becoming the go-to tool for conducting business in emerging markets. For those reasons, we are convinced that our jurisdiction needs a chat interface. So the idea is that you could simply call upon a chatbot and the smart contract template simply by using emojis. Like you have a normal chat like on WhatsApp, and you just have a special emoji that will initiate all of this. So you could, for example, use a heart emoji to start a marriage contract. So it should be really intuitive, so anyone could use it. And so this app, so Bitnation is the organization, and Pangea is the software that we are creating, the tools that we are creating, like the supercontinent Pangea, where there were no geographical divisions between everything. And now we were so divided geographically, and the idea is to bring people back together through Pangea, to, let's say, reunite everyone. And Pantalasa was the ocean around the supercontinent Pangea, and here it's the mesh network that we're creating, which is an off-chain communication protocol
to allow people to communicate securely through a high encryption standard that should also withstand attacks from quantum computers, and it should also work offline. So it's both off-chain and offline, and this should be especially important for places like in Ghana, like in a village in Ghana, when people want to make use of their land title, they will need to have somehow access to an offline Wi-Fi, let's say. And they can make agreements between each other, and whenever anyone from this network has access to internet again, the rest of the offline network can synchronize. And it's a delay-tolerant network. So all of the things that I was describing before were merely the infrastructure or the backbone, let's say, of any government, like the legal security, that the contracts that you have will actually be executed. But on top of this, we foresee that there will be a market of dApps, decentralized apps. So it will be like a dApp store where developers can create many peer-to-peer governance dApps. So it could be smart love, like marriage on the blockchain. It could be business incorporation. It could be a basic income protocol that is independent from nation states, that is global and decentralized. It could be insurances like health insurance. Could be land titles, birth certificates, wills, healthcare, or even physical peer-to-peer security. There was an organization like with the concept to create a decentralized marketplace for, let's say, security. So you could just, no matter where you are, you could just order some sort of security, like physical or even cyber security. And there will be many different apps that people can simply choose, and you will not be forced to use them. All of this is simply voluntary and opt-in. And about Bitnation itself, so we already had more than, I think in reality it was more than 15,000 citizens that signed up on the website, more than 2,000 open source contributors, more than 200 embassies. Embassies in this sense are sort of like co-working spaces where you invite others to work with you, and simply by being a Bitnation citizen you also want to, let's say, have some synergies with them and work with like-minded people. Or it could be even like couch surfing, where you just invite people to come to your place and they can stay at your place based on your conditions. I've even seen a place where they received refugees in Turkey, and that's, I think, a very neat, let's say, functionality for how Bitnation citizens can help each other in the real world, in the physical world. We have created more than 200,000 lines of code in about 4 years, and more than 5,000 contracts have been notarized on the website. And this functionality was created in collaboration with Estonia, who also had their, let's say, online citizenship program, where people from all around the world could incorporate in the Estonian law system. And to go beyond the individual sovereignty, it will be even possible for entire nations or tribes to reclaim their sovereignty through the blockchain. So Amin Rafi said, "My aim is to help spread the overall peer-to-peer movement and its reflection through Bitcoin and similar technologies. Bitnation represents that very idea in a diverse and versatile manner that not only empowers individuals but also entire nations who have been left without a voice." So you could imagine, we just had contact actually with the Apache Nation in the US, who want to create their separate law system, independent from the US. And they are within US territory, but they have some sort of sovereignty because they're an Aboriginal tribe. And there can be many of this kind of Aboriginal tribes that can create their own, let's say, customized law systems just for themselves through Bitnation. But it could also be like people who are just set up, or who are just upset with their current government. So it could be Venezuela. Like in Venezuela, people are really fed up with how everything works there, and they want to have an alternative. Or Catalonia 2.0. It could be people who want to, let's say, break free through the internet, who will just have peer-to-peer agreements without the Spanish government in that case, and just do things pseudonymously on the internet. So when you access the app that is right now on the Google Play Store. There's already a Bitnation app. You can see that there's a list of nations, and it's very basic. So every 3 weeks there will be updates, and we also work on this based on the feedback from our users. And you already have an Ethereum wallet. The PAD token will also be integrated soon, so you can use that for transactions. And when you create a nation, you can choose whether it's a virtual or geographic nation. So it can be just, let's say, ethereal concept, or it can pertain to a geographical territory. But in any case, there's no supremacy. So if there's one Catalonia nation, for example, it's not the only one. There can be millions of Catalonia nations that people can voluntarily opt into. And then you choose things like which legal code do you want to use, which law enforcement mechanism, what type of government do you want to use, or which services. And you can choose whether you want to seek diplomatic recognition by the international community as a sovereign entity, if you want to offer your services to people who are not your citizens on this nation that you create, and if this is a for-profit or a non-profit nation. And this is just, let's say, the basic categories that you can choose in the beginning, but it will be possible to just choose whatever you want, and you can customize this in the future. Just now in the beginning you will have things like civil law, common law for the legal code. You could possibly even choose Sharia law if you want. The main thing here to consider is that these laws will only be executed on people who are voluntarily joining this nation. So it can never use violence, because all contracts are voluntary. But in any case, there should also be a law enforcement mechanism. And in general, we recommend the ID and reputation enforcement through what I explained before, with reputation that's, yeah, if you have a bad reputation, simply no one will want to do business with you, and you will be ostracized from the market. But if you are not satisfied with this, you can also have a private or cooperative security system where, yeah, you just have a sort of private police or something like that. Or you could use the existing police system, and you would just have to use the same laws that exist already in Portugal, for example, nowadays. Then you can choose the type of government, so it could be a democracy, dictatorship, meritocracy, holocracy, or a theocracy. And yeah, you can think about all kinds of services, but right now we just have some examples: legal services, insurance services, social services like unemployment insurance or health insurance, diplomatic services, or physical services like defense.